At exactly 2:17 in the morning, my phone vibrated on the nightstand beside me. That alone wasn't unusual. What woke me wasn't the sound. It was the feeling, that quiet, creeping sense that something wasn't right. You know the kind your brain doesn't understand yet, but your body already does. I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling for a few seconds before reaching for the phone. The room was dark, the kind of heavy darkness that feels thicker than it should be. My hand hovered for just a moment longer than necessary before I picked it up. One new voicemail. I squinted at the screen. Then I frowned. From Daniel Harper. My name. My number. I almost smiled at first. Some kind of glitch. Or a prank. It wouldn't have been the strangest thing I'd seen. I work in IT. Systems fail in weird ways all the time. Numbers get crossed. Data corrupts. It happens. But then I noticed the timestamp, and the small, quiet part of my mind that usually stays calm went completely still. The voicemail hadn't been sent yet, not according to the phone. It was dated 3 days in the future. I sat up slowly, the bedsheet sliding off my chest, suddenly too cold against my skin. I checked it again, just to be sure I hadn't misread it. Same number, same name, same impossible timestamp. There's a moment when something doesn't make sense, where your brain tries to fix it. It rearranges things, looks for the nearest explanation, something logical, something safe. But sometimes there isn't one. And that's when the silence starts to feel louder. I told myself not to overthink it. Told myself it was just bad data, a bug, and something I could explain in the morning after coffee and a clear head. I should have deleted it. I know that now. Instead, I pressed play. At first, there was nothing, just a faint hiss of static. Then breathing. Heavy. Uneven. Close to the microphone. Like someone had been running, or panicking, or both. My fingers tightened slightly around the phone. And then I heard it. My voice. Not similar. Not close. Not the way recordings usually sound when you hear yourself played back. This was exact. Same tone. Same rhythm. Same slight roughness at the edge of certain words. The kind you don't notice unless you've lived with it your whole life. Daniel, listen carefully. The voice was strained, urgent, controlled, but only barely. You don't have much time. Something shifted in my chest. A slow, a tightening pressure that didn't feel like fear yet, but was getting there. 3 days from now, you're going to make a mistake. The audio crackled for a second, like interference cutting through. You're going to trust Emily. There was a pause. Not silence, breathing. Faster now, closer, and then quieter. Don't. The message cut off abruptly. No goodbye, no explanation. Just gone. I didn't move. For a long time, I just sat there staring at the phone, waiting for something else to happen. Another sound, another message, something to break the stillness that had settled over the room. Nothing did. The darkness felt different now, heavier, like it was listening. I replayed the message, then again, and again. Each time I focused on something different. The tone, the pacing, the breathing, looking for cracks, for proof that it wasn't real, that it couldn't be real. But the more I listened, the worse it got, because there was no distortion in the voice itself, no artificial tone, no digital warping, just me, panicked, terrified, and completely certain of what I was saying. Don't trust Emily. I said her name out loud, quietly, like testing how it sounded in the room. Emily, my fiancée. 4 years together, 6 months engaged. Someone I trusted more than anyone else in my life. The idea didn't just feel wrong, It felt impossible, which meant one of two things. Either the message was fake, or something was very, very wrong. I checked the time again. 2:23 a.m. Too early to think clearly, too late to ignore it. So I did the only thing that made sense. I called her. The phone rang 3 times before she picked up. Her voice came through soft, warm, half asleep. "Hey, everything okay?" For a second, I couldn't speak. I just listened, grounding myself in something real, something normal. "Yeah," I said finally. "Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you." A pause. I could hear her shifting on the other end, sheets moving, a quiet exhale. "You never call this late unless something's wrong," she murmured. "What happened?" I opened my mouth, almost told her, almost said it out loud. I just heard myself tell me not to trust you, but the words never came, because saying them would make them real, and I wasn't ready for that. "Just couldn't sleep," I said instead. Another pause, then a soft, familiar sound, half yawn, half laugh. "Come over," she said. "You always sleep better here." There was something comforting in the way she said it. Automatic, natural, like she'd said it 100 times before. Maybe she had. For a moment, everything felt normal again, manageable, explainable. "Yeah," I said. "Maybe." "Door's unlocked," she added. "Just don't wake me up again unless the world's ending." I almost smiled. Deal. We hung up, and just like that, the silence came back. But it wasn't the same silence. This one had weight. I didn't go back to sleep. I couldn't. Instead, I sat there in the dim light of my phone screen, replaying the message until the words started to lose meaning and become something else. Something colder. Something that felt less like a warning and more like a memory. Around 6 in the morning, I noticed something I hadn't caught before. A sound in the background of the recording. Faint, rhythmic, easy to miss if you weren't listening for it. I turned the volume all the way up, held the phone closer, listened carefully. There it was, a metallic clanging sound, sharp, hollow, repeating at uneven intervals. Clang, pause, clang, pause, clang. My body went completely still, because I knew that sound. Not just vaguely, not just in a "that seems familiar" kind of way. I knew it the way you know your own footsteps. I lowered the phone slowly and turned my head toward the kitchen. The apartment was quiet, still. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, clang. The sound echoed faintly from the other room. Same pitch, same rhythm, same spacing. I stood up, walked slowly toward the kitchen, every step deliberate, like moving too fast might break something fragile I couldn't see. The air felt colder out there, thinner. The radiator sat against the far wall, old and unreliable, the paint chipped along the edges, and as I stepped closer, clang. It made the sound again, exactly the same, not similar, not close, perfectly identical. A slow, hollow realization settled in. When that voicemail was recorded, I was standing right here, in this apartment, next to that radiator, listening to that exact sound. 3 days from now. I felt something shift inside me then. Not panic, not yet. Something quieter, something worse, certainty. Because if that part was real, then the rest of it might be too. I looked down at my phone again, at the timestamp. 3 days, 72 hours. That's how long I had before I became the person in that recording. Before I said those words. Before I warned myself. Which meant one thing. I was going to survive long enough to make that call. But it also meant something else. Something I didn't want to think about. Something I couldn't ignore. At some point in the next 3 days, I was going to believe that Emily couldn't be trusted, and I didn't know why. I spent the rest of the morning trying to break it, to find a flaw in the logic, some explanation I hadn't considered, spoofed numbers, audio manipulation, delayed sending. I ran through every possibility I could think of. None of them held up. Not against the timestamp, not against the background sound, not against the voice. So I stopped asking how it was fake and started asking what it meant if it wasn't. And that's when things started to feel wrong. Not around me, inside me. Like something had already started changing. Like the message hadn't just been a warning, but the beginning of something. Around noon, I noticed a new notification on my phone. Something I hadn't seen before. A saved draft. Voicemail. I frowned. I hadn't recorded anything. I opened it. Nothing. No audio, no waveform, just an empty file. But the date made my stomach drop. It was time-stamped 3 days from now, same as the voicemail I'd received. I stared at it for a long time, trying to understand what I was looking at, trying to convince myself it didn't mean what I thought it meant. But the thought came anyway. Slow, cold, unavoidable. The voicemail I received had to come from somewhere, and if it hadn't been recorded yet, then at some point, I was going to record it. The problem was, I didn't remember doing it. And somehow, it already existed. I didn't touch the phone for a long time after that. I just sat there, staring at the screen, waiting for it to change, for the timestamp to correct itself, for the draft to disappear. It didn't. It stayed exactly where it was, and like it had always been there, like it belonged there. Eventually, I locked the screen and set the phone down carefully, as if moving too quickly might trigger something else. Another message. Another piece of whatever this was. The apartment felt different now. Not in a physical way. Nothing had moved. Nothing had changed. But there was a tension in the air, subtle and constant, like something unseen had settled into the space and was quietly watching. I tried to shake it off. Tried to force myself back into routine. Coffee, shower, work, normal things. But normal didn't hold. Not anymore. I didn't go into the office. I told them I was sick, which wasn't entirely a lie. Something was wrong with me. I just didn't know what. The entire morning blurred into a loop of the same thoughts. The voicemail, Emily, the draft, over and over again. My mind circled the same question. What happens in 3 days? Not just what I do, but what changes. Because something had to. People don't just wake up one day and decide not to trust the person they love most. That kind of shift, it comes from somewhere. A moment, a discovery, a mistake. A mistake. The word from the voicemail echoed back in my head. You're going to make a mistake. I stood up abruptly, pacing the length of the living room. What mistake? I muttered to myself. What am I supposed to do? There was no answer, only that quiet, pressing silence again. I checked my phone. No new notifications, no missed calls. Everything looked normal, except it wasn't, because now every second felt like it was leading somewhere. Every decision carried weight. Every thought felt like it mattered more than it should. Around mid-afternoon, I decided I couldn't stay in the apartment anymore. The walls felt too close, too aware. I grabbed my jacket, my keys, and stepped outside. The air hit me immediately, cool, fresh, real. For the first time since the message, I felt something close to grounded again. Cars passed, people walked by, someone laughed across the street. The world was still moving, still normal, and for a moment, I almost believed it. I walked without direction, just letting my feet carry me somewhere that wasn't my apartment, somewhere that didn't have that radiator, that sound, that certainty. But even out there, I couldn't escape it, because the message wasn't tied to a place. It was tied to me. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I froze. For a split second, I considered not checking it, just leaving it, letting whatever it was pass. But that thought didn't last long. I pulled it out. A text from Emily. "Are you okay? You sounded off earlier." I stared at the message. Simple, normal, concerned. Exactly what I would expect from her. My fingers hovered over the screen. Then I typed, "Yeah, just tired. Didn't sleep well." 3 dots appeared almost instantly. Then, "Come over tonight. I'll cook. You need to relax." I hesitated. The words from the voicemail surfaced again. "Don't trust Emily." I read the message again. Looked at her name, her picture. Smiling, warm, familiar. Nothing about it felt threatening. Nothing about her ever had. And yet, something inside me shifted, just slightly, barely noticeable. But it was there. Not fear, not suspicion, not yet. Something quieter, something more subtle. Doubt. It slipped in so easily I almost didn't catch it. Like a thought that didn't belong to me, but had somehow found its way in anyway. I shook my head, trying to clear it. This was exactly what the message wanted, to make me question things, to make me paranoid. That's how it works, right? If something wants to control you, it doesn't force you. It makes you doubt everything else. I typed back, "Yeah, I'll come by." As soon as I hit send, something tightened in my chest. A strange, immediate feeling, like I had just made a decision that mattered more than I understood. I put the phone away, kept walking, but the feeling didn't go away. By the time I got back to my apartment, the sun was already starting to dip. The light inside had changed. Longer shadows, softer edges. Everything looked slightly unfamiliar. I stopped just inside the door, listening, waiting, silence. Then, clang. And the radiator. Same sound, same rhythm, but this time, it felt different. Before, it had been a clue. Now, it felt like a countdown. I moved slowly through the apartment, trying to ignore the sound, but it followed me. Not physically, just in my head. Clang, pause, clang. 72 hours. Now less. I checked my phone again. The draft voicemail was still there. Unchanged. Waiting. I opened it. Still empty. But this time, I noticed something new. A faint flicker in the interface. Barely visible, like the app had tried to load something and failed. I leaned closer, watching, waiting. For a split second, I saw a waveform, just a flash. Then it was gone. My breath caught. There was something there, something trying to appear, which meant the message wasn't just a future event, it was forming, right now. I closed the app immediately, a heart racing now. That quiet tension from earlier had shifted. This wasn't subtle anymore. This was active. Something was happening. Not in 3 days. Now. I grabbed my keys again. I needed to get out, needed to get to Emily's, needed something solid, something real. The drive felt longer than usual. Every red light lasted too long. Every passing car felt too close. I kept checking the rearview mirror without knowing why, half expecting to see something there, someone watching, someone following. Nothing was, but the feeling didn't leave. By the time I reached her place, the sky had darkened completely. Her apartment building looked the same as always. Warm light in the windows, familiar, safe. I parked, sat in the car for a moment, staring at the entrance. Don't trust Emily. The words felt louder now, clearer, closer. I exhaled slowly. This is stupid, I muttered. Then I got out of the car. She opened the door before I could knock, smiling, soft light behind her, everything about her exactly the same. "Hey," she said gently. "You look like you haven't slept in a week." I forced a small smile. "Feels like it." She stepped aside, letting me in. The warmth hit me immediately. The smell of food. Something familiar. Comforting. "You're lucky," she said, heading toward the kitchen. "I made your favorite." I watched her move. Every gesture natural. Every movement exactly as I remembered. Nothing wrong, nothing off. And yet, that feeling again. Not fear, not suspicion, just that quiet, creeping doubt. I stepped inside fully, closing the door behind me. The lock clicked softly, and for a brief moment, I had the strangest thought. And that I had just walked into something I wouldn't be able to walk out of. "Daniel?" Emily's voice called from the kitchen. "You coming?" I hesitated, just for a second. Then I moved toward her, because no matter what the message said, I still trusted her. At least, I thought I did. And somewhere, deep in the back of my mind, something shifted again, like a memory trying to surface, or a warning. I hadn't fully understood yet. Emily was already plating the food when I stepped into the kitchen. Everything smelled familiar, comforting, safe, garlic, butter, something warm and slow cooked, the kind of meal she always made when she thought I needed grounding. "You're just in time," she said, glancing over her shoulder with a soft smile. "Sit." I did, automatically, like I'd done 100 times before. For a while, everything felt normal. We ate, we talked. She asked about work. I gave vague answers, nothing unusual, nothing suspicious. And that was the problem, because I was waiting for something, some crack, some sign that the voicemail had been right. But there was nothing, just Emily, the same Emily. "You're quiet," she said after a while, setting her fork down. Her eyes lingered on me a little longer than usual. "Did something happen?" There it was, the moment. I felt it, a pressure building behind my chest, the truth pushing up, trying to come out. I could tell her, right now, end this, let her in. Instead, I shook my head. "Just tired," I said. She didn't look convinced, but she didn't push, not immediately. "Okay," she said softly. "But you know you can talk to me?" I nodded, but something inside me tightened. And because for the first time, that sentence didn't feel comforting. It felt loaded. I looked down at my plate, suddenly aware of how quiet the room had become. Too quiet, like something had shifted without me noticing. "You called me at 2 a.m., she said suddenly. My head snapped up. Her tone hadn't changed. Still calm, still gentle. But the words felt sharper. "You said you couldn't sleep," she continued. "But that's not what it sounded like." My pulse quickened. "What did it sound like?" She hesitated, just for a second. "Like you were scared." The word hung in the air between us. I forced a small laugh. "I was half asleep, probably just Daniel." She said my name differently that time. Not louder, not harsher, just firmer. And something about it made my chest tighten again. "What's going on?" she asked. I opened my mouth and closed it again. The truth sat right there, ready, heavy, but the moment stretched. And the longer it stretched, the harder it became to say anything at all. "Nothing," I said finally. The word felt wrong the second it left my mouth. Emily leaned back slightly in her chair, studying me. Not suspicious, not accusing, just watching. And for the first time, I felt like I was being seen. Not the version of me I showed people, not the calm, logical, controlled version, but something underneath that, something I didn't fully understand myself. "Okay," she said after a moment, but it didn't sound like she believed me. We finished dinner in silence, and the silence wasn't comfortable anymore. It was tense, heavy, filled with things neither of us were saying. Afterward, she started clearing the table. I stood there for a second, unsure what to do with myself. Then I reached for my phone. No new messages, but the draft voicemail was still there. I opened it again. This time it didn't stay empty. A waveform flickered into existence, faint, incomplete, like something trying to take shape. My breath caught. It was happening again, right now. "Daniel?" Emily's voice pulled me back. I locked the screen immediately, too quickly. She was standing in the doorway now, watching me. "What are you looking at?" she asked. "Nothing," I said, too fast. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Can I see?" The question hit harder than it should have. "No." The word came out sharper than I intended. The moment it left my mouth, I knew something had changed. Emily blinked, surprised. "I just meant—" "I know what you meant," I cut in. Silence, and the kind that doesn't just fill a room, but presses against it. Her expression shifted, not angry, not upset, something else. Concern. "Daniel," she said quietly, "you're acting strange." The words echoed in my head. "You're acting strange." And suddenly, I wasn't sure if she was right, or if that was exactly what I was supposed to think. "Maybe I am," I said. The moment the words left my mouth, something inside me settled. Not in a good way, in a way that felt like acceptance. Emily stepped closer, slowly, carefully. "Talk to me," she said. Her voice was soft, gentle, the same voice she'd always used. But now, it felt different, like there was something underneath it, something I couldn't quite hear, but could definitely feel. My grip tightened around the phone. "3 days from now," I said. The words came out before I could stop them, and Emily froze. "What?" she asked. I swallowed. "I got a voicemail," I said. There was no going back now. Her expression didn't change immediately, but something in her eyes shifted. "What kind of voicemail?" she asked carefully. I hesitated. "From me," I said. Silence. "And?" she pressed. I forced the words out. "It told me not to trust you." The room went completely still. For a moment, Emily didn't react at all. No shock, no confusion, no anger, nothing. And that was worse than anything else. "Play it," she said. Her voice was calm, too calm. I hesitated. Every instinct in my body told me not to, but I ignored it. I unlocked the phone, opened the voicemail, pressed play. The same breathing filled the room, heavy, uneven. My voice followed. "Daniel, listen carefully." I watched Emily's face as she listened, waiting for something. Anything. But she didn't flinch, didn't react. She just listened. "You're going to trust Emily." A pause. "Don't." The message ended. Silence. I looked at her. "Well?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she took a slow step back, and for the first time, I saw it. Not fear, not guilt. Something else. Recognition. "You've already heard this before," she said quietly. My stomach dropped. "What?" She shook her head slowly. "No, this isn't right," she murmured. "It's happening earlier this time." The words hit like a physical force. "What are you talking about?" I demanded. She looked at me, really looked at me, and suddenly, The room felt wrong, like the walls had shifted, like something fundamental had just broken. "Daniel," she said, "you need to listen to me very carefully." My heart was pounding now. "You're not remembering everything," she continued. A cold, creeping sensation spread through my chest. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, like she was choosing her next words very carefully. "Because you've already done this," she said. The air left my lungs. "What?" "You've heard that voicemail before," she said. "More than once." "No," I said immediately. "That's not possible." But even as I said it, something in my mind shifted. A flicker, a fragment of something I couldn't quite see, like trying to remember a dream that was already fading. "You don't remember recording it either, do you?" she asked. I didn't answer, because I didn't need to. She already knew. "That's what this does," she said quietly. "This loop." The word hung in the air. Loop. My grip on reality felt like it slipped, just slightly. "No," I said. That doesn't make any sense." "I know," she said. "It didn't make sense to you last time either." Last time. The phrase echoed in my head. "What last time?" I asked. But she didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked at my phone. "At some point," she said slowly, "you're going to record another message." My chest tightened. "And you're not going to remember doing it," she added. I felt it then, that same certainty from before, but stronger, because now it wasn't just a possibility. It was a pattern. "And when you hear it," she continued, "you're going to start thinking I'm the problem." Her voice didn't waver, but her eyes. There was something there, something real. "Daniel," she said, stepping closer again, "I'm not the one you should be afraid of." The words echoed against everything the voicemail had told me. And suddenly, I didn't know which version of reality to believe, the message or her. "Then who is?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked at me, like she already knew the answer, like she had always known. And that's when my phone vibrated again. Both of us froze. Slowly, I looked down. A new voicemail. From my number. Time-stamped. Tomorrow. My hand trembled as I opened it. Pressed play. This time, the voice was clearer, closer, more controlled. "Daniel, you need to stop listening to her." My blood ran cold. "Emily is lying to you." I looked up at her. Her expression didn't change. "Whatever she tells you, it's part of it." The message crackled. "Don't let her remember." Silence. The voicemail ended. The room felt like it tilted slightly. "Don't let her remember?" I repeated. Emily didn't answer. Because in that moment, I saw something I hadn't noticed before. Not fear, not confusion, but realization. Like something had just gone wrong. Like the timeline had just changed. And somehow, I was the one who caused it. The room didn't feel real anymore. It was still Emily's apartment. The same walls, the same table, the same soft light spilling from the kitchen. But something underneath it had shifted. Like the structure holding everything together had cracked. Just slightly. And now everything was leaning. I stared at Emily. She stared back at me. Neither of us moved. "Say something," I said. My voice sounded wrong, distant, like it was coming from somewhere behind me instead of inside my chest. Emily exhaled slowly. "You weren't supposed to hear that yet." The words landed harder than anything she'd said before. "Yet?" I repeated. She nodded once, carefully. "The messages, they're overlapping now," she said. "That's new." My grip tightened around the phone. "Stop talking like this is normal," I snapped. Explain it. She hesitated, not because she didn't know what to say, but because she was deciding how much I could handle, which made something inside me twist. I don't think you want the full version, she said quietly. Try me. Silence. Then she stepped closer, slowly, like approaching something unpredictable. This started before the voicemail, she said. You just don't remember. My chest tightened. Remember what? She looked at me for a long moment, then said, You were the one who figured it out first. The words didn't make sense. Not at first. What does that mean? You found the loop, she said. You proved it. A strange pressure built behind my eyes. No, I said. That's not possible. You work in systems, she continued. Patterns, recursion, feedback loops. That's how you saw it. Her voice was steady, measured, like she'd said this before, because maybe she had. You noticed the inconsistencies, she said. Small things repeating, conversations looping, events happening twice, but slightly different. My head started to ache. And then you did something, she said. I swallowed. What? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked at my phone. At some point, she said slowly, you realized the loop could be influenced. A cold feeling spread through my chest. Influenced how? By leaving messages. The room felt smaller. You figured out that if you recorded something in one cycle, she continued, it could carry into the next. The words hit me all at once. The voicemail. You were trying to guide yourself, she said, to break out. My breathing slowed, not because I was calming down, but because something inside me was locking into place. That doesn't make sense, I said, but my voice was weaker now. It didn't at first, she agreed, but you kept testing it. Her eyes met mine. And then you made a mistake. The word again. A mistake, I repeated. She nodded. You changed something you weren't supposed to. The room tilted again, just slightly. What did I change? This time, she hesitated longer, and that hesitation told me everything I needed to know. It was me, wasn't it? I said quietly. She didn't answer, which was answer enough. You tried to remove me from the loop, she said finally. You thought I was the variable causing it. The words from the voicemail echoed in my head. Don't trust Emily. You were wrong, she added. A sharp, hollow feeling opened in my chest. Then why does the message say, because that's the version of you who still believes that, she cut in. Silence. And suddenly, I understood something. There wasn't just one version of me. There were layers, versions overlapping, each one leaving traces, messages, warnings, mistakes. Then the other message, I said slowly. The one from tomorrow. Emily's expression darkened. That one's different, she said. How? She didn't look away this time. That one isn't trying to help you. The words sent a cold shock through me. Then who is it from? She held my gaze. You, she said. But not the version that wants to get out. Something inside me broke then, and because that meant there's a version of me that doesn't want to break the loop. She nodded. Yes. The silence that followed felt absolute, heavy, final. Why? I asked. Her answer came softly. Because he realized something you haven't yet. My throat felt dry. What? She took a step back, like she needed distance to say it. You don't survive outside the loop. The words hit harder than anything else. What are you talking about? You tried to leave, she said. Once. A faint pressure built in my head again, stronger this time. You broke the pattern, she continued. Changed enough variables to force an exit. I felt it then. A flicker. A memory. Cold. Sharp. Incomplete. What happened? I asked. Her voice dropped. You died. Everything stopped. The room. The sound. Even my thoughts. What? You didn't make it past the loop, she said. Something about the way it's structured. It keeps you alive inside it. But outside, she shook her head. You couldn't exist. My hands felt numb. That doesn't make sense, I whispered. I know, she said, but you saw it happen. You felt it. The pressure in my head spiked. Images flashed, fragments, a road, rain, a sudden impact, darkness. I staggered slightly. No, I said, but it wasn't denial anymore. It was recognition. You came back, she said softly. The loop reset, but you remembered enough to know something was wrong. My breathing became shallow. And that's when you started leaving messages, she continued. To stop myself, I said. Yes. Silence. Then, to stop me from trusting you, I added. Her expression shifted. Something like sadness. Not exactly, she said. My chest tightened. Then what? She hesitated, just for a moment. Because every time you trust me, she said quietly, you get closer to leaving the loop. My mind reeled. And leaving the loop means you die. The realization hit all at once. The messages weren't warnings. They were barriers, built by a version of me, trying to survive. Then you, I said slowly, looking at her. You're trying to help me leave. She nodded. I've been trying every time, she said. And every time, her voice faltered. You stopped me. The room felt like it was closing in, because now everything made sense. The warnings, the doubt, the fear. They weren't protecting me. They were trapping me. My phone vibrated again. We both looked down. Another notification. The draft voicemail, now complete. My hand trembled as I opened it. And the waveform was fully formed now, waiting. I didn't press play. I already knew what it would say, because I could feel it. The words forming in my mind, the fear, the urgency, the need to survive. I looked at Emily. She was watching me, not afraid, just waiting. For once, she said softly, don't listen to it. My thumb hovered over the screen. I could end it. Right now. Break the pattern. Trust her. Or, listen, stay safe, stay alive, inside the loop, forever. My chest tightened. Because now I understood the real choice. It wasn't about trust. It was about fear. And whether I was willing to let it go. I closed my eyes. And for the first time since this started, I made a decision that wasn't influenced by a message. I deleted the voicemail. The screen went blank, silent, final. When I opened my eyes again, Emily was still there. And the room was still the same. Nothing had changed. At first. Then, the light flickered, the air shifted, and something deep, structural, finally broke. Not violently, quietly, like a loop, coming undone. Emily stepped closer, relief in her eyes. You did it, she whispered. For a moment, everything felt still, real, free. Then, my phone buzzed one last time. I looked down. One new voicemail. From Daniel Harper. Timestamp. Now. My stomach dropped. Slowly, I pressed play and heard my own voice, calm, clear, unafraid. Daniel, if you're hearing this, a pause. It means you finally trusted her. I looked up at Emily. Her expression hadn't changed, but something about her felt different, distant, unreachable. The voice continued. And if that happened, a longer pause. Then you're not in the loop anymore. The room darkened slightly, subtly, like something was being pulled away. And you need to understand something. My chest tightened. You weren't supposed to leave. Emily took a step back. No, she whispered. But it was too late. Because the loop, the voice cracked slightly, was never trapping you. The air grew colder. It felt harder to breathe. It was protecting everyone else. Silence. The message ended. I looked at Emily, and for the first time, I saw it. Not her, but something behind her. Something waiting, watching. Something that had been held back for a very long time. And now, it wasn't.